Welcome to the debate. Today we're diving deep into Dua Lipa's Radical Optimism tour kickoff, specifically that September 1st night at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. The big question we're wrestling with is this. Did this highly anticipated tour launch successfully translate Dua Lipa's evolving artistic vision and her new album material to the immense scale of a stadium environment? Or did it perhaps expose some inherent limitations in scaling her latest work and production choices to such a massive venue? I firmly believe the show was a resounding success, a masterclass, really, in transitioning to stadium-level artistry.
And I come at it from a slightly different angle. While I certainly acknowledge the sheer spectacle and, her undeniable star power, I'll be presenting the perspective that the concert, for all its ambition, highlighted some very real challenges in adapting certain nuances of her new work and the specific production aesthetics to such a colossal setting.
For me, that Toronto kickoff wasn't just a concert. It was a definitive statement, proving Dua Lipa's complete ascension to stadium queen status. It was, I'd say, a 9-10 night across the board. The production itself was just a grand, immersive spectacle. We saw a truly massive, curvilinear wave-shaped stage, dynamic crashing ocean visuals that perfectly tied into the whole Radical Optimism theme, and an array of explosive pyrotechnics, those flames shooting up, the abundant confetti, all coalescing into what was rightfully described as a full-on party explosion. Visually, Dua Lipa was, a total goddess in that initial golden bodysuit, cycling through 5 distinct, meticulously crafted outfit changes, from a mermaid-esque golden suit to a striking mesh Dior bodysuit with gloves. The high production value wasn't just superficial. It was deeply integrated, supported by a dozen backup dancers, a full live band, and spot-on backup singers who elevated every vocal moment. From the insane energy of training season to those undeniable crowd favorites like Levitating and Don't Start Now, the entire arena was just jumping, maintaining a nonstop hype for nearly 2 hours. Her flawless, raspy vocals never wavered, and her dance moves were effortlessly commanding. This wasn't just an artist performing, it was an artist owning the biggest stage possible, perfectly translating her unique brand to the stadium scale.
Okay, I can certainly see why you'd call it a triumph. And yeah, many elements were undeniably impressive, but I'm not entirely sold on the idea that it was a seamless translation to stadium scale. For all its ambition, the Radical Optimism tour kickoff, in my analysis, revealed some critical points where the artistic vision and production choices didn't quite hit the mark for a venue of that magnitude. One significant issue that really stood out was the pacing. Our observations from the night pointed to noticeable dips during the slower tracks, specifically These Walls and Maria. This really caused the overall energy to sag, momentarily pulling down that high-octane dance party vibe she generally cultivates. More crucially, the new Radical Optimism songs themselves often didn't hit as hard live as her future nostalgia stuff. It suggests that the album's distinct ravey feel, characterized by those immersive, often looping bass lines and atmospheric synth textures that really thrive in intimate, enclosed spaces, seemed to get a bit lost in the sheer vastness and reverberant acoustics of Scotiabank Arena. It often felt like that material was truly meant for a club instead of 20,000 people. And while the graphics were stunning, sure, they were, at times overwhelming, and critically overpowered the dancers at points, making it difficult for the audience, to focus on the live human action. Even the opener, Seal, contributed to this, feeling a tad mismatched energy-wise and creating an overall sense of unevenness in the show's flow for such a large venue.
While you've made a strong case for those perceived dips, I believe the way the Radical Optimism material was integrated actually served a more strategic purpose than it might appear on the surface. The overall theme was incredibly successful, evident in the immersive stage design and those crashing ocean visuals you mentioned. The full-on party explosion energy she created resonated perfectly with new tracks like Illusion. Look, the excitement around perennial crowd pleasers like Levitating and Don't Start Now undeniably proves that Dua Lipa knows precisely how to make an arena feel like a massive dance floor. My argument is that this inherent sensibility, her understanding of arena dynamics, was effectively extended to her new material. The consistent engagement of the crowd, singing along to both old and new, indicated a successful integration, not a limitation. The album's specific sonic textures, while perhaps different from future nostalgia, were, I think, filtered through a stadium-ready lens, emphasizing the anthemic qualities and broader danceability.
Okay, I hear your point about the overall energy, and I agree it was palpable. But I wonder, do you think that general party explosion energy truly means the new Radical Optimism tracks themselves fully landed? Or were they perhaps carried more by the momentum of the older hits and the surrounding spectacle? I'd argue the core issue isn't about whether some of the new material worked, obviously Illusion has a more direct anthemic quality, but about the overall ravey feel of the new album struggling to translate.
Okay.
That distinct sound, with its intricate layers and deep bass frequencies, often gets, well, washed out in an arena environment where acoustics are designed for projection, not nuanced sonic immersion. It's a fundamental mismatch, really. The material demands a certain sonic intimacy for its subtle grooves and atmospheric builds to truly resonate, a challenge magnified by stadium reverberation and the sheer distance between the stage and 20,000 listeners. It's not just about turning up the volume, it's about the inherent spatial and acoustic properties of the music itself. You know what I mean?
I'm not entirely sold on that argument about a fundamental mismatch, because when you look at the extensive visual production, it played a crucial role in bridging any perceived gap. From her stunning golden bodysuit to the 5 changes, including that striking mesh Dior bodysuit with gloves and the stunning graphics perfectly synced with choreography, these elements were absolutely integral to creating that unreal and goddess aesthetic. In a stadium show, this kind of visual feast isn't just complimentary, it's essential for translating the artist's vision and impact to every single person in the massive crowd, regardless of where they're seated. These elements didn't detract from the music, they amplified and elevated the overall artistic experience, proving the immense effort in creating a cohesive visual and performative feast that reaches the back row. They become part of the language of the performance in a large venue.
Yeah, I agree that ambition in visuals is important, and in a stadium, they are indeed critical. However, the problem wasn't the ambition itself, but rather the execution and calibration at that massive scale. The observations from the night specifically noted that the graphics were stunning, but sometimes overwhelming, and crucially overpowered the dancers at points. This issue with graphics overpowering the human elements often comes down to a delicate balance of resolution, luminosity scaling, and depth of field. In a venue of that size, if the LED content is too bright, too visually dense, or lacks sufficient contrast with the performers, it can flatten the stage picture. It pulls focus away from the human element rather than enhancing it. For 20,000 people, where the fine details of choreography are already a challenge to discern, visuals should ideally complement, frame, and direct attention, not compete with or even obscure the performers on stage. It indicates maybe a misjudgment in balancing the sheer visual spectacle with the immediacy and focus on the live human performance, which, I would argue, is paramount to maintaining that essential connection in such a sprawling setting.
Okay, I see why you might focus on those specific moments where the visuals might have been too dominant. But I would frame the overall pacing of the show differently. Dua Lipa demonstrated incredible stamina and audience command, delivering nearly 2 hours of nonstop hype with an infectious energy, constantly flipping her hair and locking eyes with the crowd. And consider the intimate moment of covering Nelly Furtado's I'm Like a Bird on the B stage with just her and the band. That was a nostalgic and heartfelt highlight. This wasn't a drag or a dip in energy. It was a thoughtfully orchestrated dynamic shift that showcased her range and ability to connect personally within a massive venue. It demonstrated a versatility in maintaining engagement across different tempos, proving that an entire stadium can be held rapt even in quieter moments, provided the delivery is authentic and compelling. It enriches the experience rather than detracts, I think.
That's an interesting point regarding the B-stage moment, and I agree it was a highlight and, yeah, a smart move. However, I'm not convinced that a single, well-executed intimate moment negates the overarching pacing issues observed in the main set. The initial assessment explicitly stated that the pacing dipped during slower tracks like These Walls and Maria, creating a breather that dragged the vibe down from the high-octane dance party. This isn't just about sustained energy, it's about maintaining narrative momentum in a show designed for 20,000 people. A slight pause in a club might be a welcome moment for reflection, but in an arena, that same pause can translate to a loss of connection across a sprawling audience, making it harder to pull them back into the collective experience. It speaks to a fundamental challenge in trackless sequencing for these massive environments.
Right.
While the B stage was well received, it paradoxically underscored where the main show's pacing struggled to maintain a consistent high-energy flow, highlighting the fundamental challenge of sustaining an engaging narrative across the entire performance length. It points to an unevenness in how the set flowed, rather than a deliberate, seamlessly executed dynamic shift throughout.
In conclusion, I maintain that the Toronto Radical Optimism Tour kickoff was an emphatic statement establishing Dua Lipa as a bona fide stadium queen. The grand scale of the production, from the meticulously crafted visuals to the flawless choreography, combined with her commanding and energetic performance, created an overwhelmingly successful and unforgettable experience. She successfully integrated her new material alongside her established hits, demonstrating a powerful artistic evolution and a true mastery of the arena environment, effectively making 20,000 feel like an intimate party.
And while the concert certainly had its undeniably impressive moments, and Dua Lipa's star power is absolutely clear, it also revealed critical areas where the Radical Optimism era's artistic vision and production choices were not fully optimized for a stadium environment. This resulted in observable, uneven pacing in instances where the sheer spectacle inadvertently overshadowed the nuanced live performance. While she is an incredible artist, her journey to consistent arena mastery for her new material specifically still appears to be evolving, requiring further calibration of her sound and visuals for that vast scale.
Both of our perspectives truly illuminate how the translation of an artistic vision to a large-scale live experience involves complex choices and trade-offs in everything from sound design to visual storytelling. The observations from the night provide such rich ground for understanding these intricate dynamics in contemporary pop performance.